wanted to go through today, or what we want to go through today. And I'm sure majority of this will probably be basic for you, but we'll talk about that.
Well, I don't mind. I don't mind because I usually work, on with Radius, and we have another technology which is I don't know if you know those equipments. They're called RAD.
RAD.
AD. They're the same. They do the same kind of thing as a Radius server. They authorize all the accesses that are allowed.
Yeah.
And for me, anyway, it's a good thing. Especially, I can see you use Nmap, which is a tool for hacking purposes. So
yeah, it's mainly Nmap is mainly just for scanning. So it's for scanning, scanning what ports are open on a device. So it's more of like it's a vulnerability scanning tool mainly. I'll say, for example, like one of the things that I like doing, if I provision anything that's externally available, that has an external IP address, I just
at work I use Nmap and Metasploit. I don't know if you know that one.
Yep, I know Metasploit. Yeah,
we use both for security.
Yeah, and you have stuff. I was in. You have stuff because it's a data center, so you will definitely be much more solid infrastructure. So you have stuff where you're currently testing vulnerability on your devices and finding out if there's misconfiguration, and that could lead to security breaches and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the first things that I want to talk about is understanding the different ways of accessing the switch. I mean, this is like really basic for you. We all know we can access the switch via the console.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I wanted to bring out in this one is that because many people, if you talk to which I really hope, because I think this would be something that would be really useful for people that are basically just moving into networking and stuff like that. Because many people are used to, the old console of the HAL J45 cable, where you get the HAL J45 cable and you plug that into the Cisco device, and then it comes out at the DB9 end, and then you basically get a serial connection. So now plug that into the serial connection, and then that goes to your computer. But many people are not aware that that's not something that's popular anymore, because now majority of Cisco devices have USB ports. So actually, on the Cisco devices, when we talk about console is not just RJ45 console. There's two types of console now. So there's RJ45 consoles on Cisco devices, and there's also the mini USB console.
Yeah.
And actually, so do you know which one? So if I give just an illustration, and this is just like in an illustration. So if I plug in, so if I have my Cisco device here, and I'll have my J45 ports down here, and this is my Cisco switch, and then I'll have the mini USB port, maybe right at the top here. So there'll be a mini USB port here. So I have my laptop sitting here. I plug a mini USB type B to USB type A to my laptop. That's for console connection. I could also get the RJ45 to serial connection and plug it to my laptop. So that's also console connection. Yeah. So in this case, which one takes preeminence? Which one will be? Which one is, in terms of priority, which one is top priority?
Well, I guess it's the Cisco console cable. The one.
This one. So actually, because I was reading, just to let you, so I didn't know this one till yesterday when I was just studying this back just to do some revision. So the one that actually has higher priority is the USB. So the one that has higher priority, what I said is, so you have the cable connected to the USB, you have a cable connected to, so once you connect the cable to the USB, only one of them can have input being active at once. So once you plug in the USB here, the input of this console port becomes inactive.
Accidentally.
Yeah, that's right.
Down.
Sorry, just clean it again.
No.
Sorry.
Not put in the pan. So what should I put in to make the toast?
You need to add a little bit of sugar. Let's talk about it after. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. So let's bring that up. Let's see the one that we're mentioning now. The reason why is because some of this stuff it's good to let's bring up Google Chrome and let's go and we have all the different options. And if you go USB, so that's what we're talking about. So someone goes to the store, gets the Cisco device. So what they'll do is they have like all these different ports. Of course, we know about the normal Ethernet ports, the SFP modules here, and then number one here, it's okay. That's the LED. Then number two here is the USB mini Type B console port. And then down here, number 7 here, this one, that's the RJ45 console port. So now there are two types of console ports there. So the RJ45 console port and the mini USB console port. And then the other one that we're talking about in terms of which one has priority. So we go USB, and then let's go down a bit. And that's the cable that we need to get. We need to get the cab USB console cable. So which, if we can search for it, we'll see it's just a mini USB to USB cable that we use. So, because many people know about this one, which is the one that is very, very popular. But many people don't know that in terms of newer devices, things have changed a bit. Because things are not exactly the way things were like in like 5 years ago, where it's just the DB9 console cable. It's a bit different now. So scrolling down, just getting like that information. So 1 minute, I'll just get that information about where we get. So if I go management ports. Okay, yeah, look at this one. So can you see my screen, right?
Yeah.
So it says the 10100 Ethernet management port uses, okay, yeah, so not that one. If you use the USB mini type console port, the Cisco Windows USB device driver must be installed on the PC. So there's a Cisco Windows USB device driver that we must install on the PC if we're going to be using this USB console port. Now they said with the Cisco USB device driver, you can connect and disconnect the USB cable from the console port without affecting the terminal. The console output always goes to both RJ45 and USB console connectors. In other words, the output of whatever you're typing will go to both at the same time. It says, but the console input is active on only one of the console connectors at any one time. So the USB console takes precedence over the RJ45 console.
All right.
Yeah. When a cable is connected into the USB console port, the RJ45 console port becomes inactive. Conversely, when the USB cable is disconnected from the USB console port, the RJ45 port becomes active. So just talking about just the basics in terms of hardware, how that operates, so that we're aware of that, it's not just the holding this of RJ45 to DB9. Now we have this USB port, which actually takes precedence over the former RJ45 port that we used to use. Also, right on this end, that will be number 8 here. So if we expand this, so right number 8 here, so we can see there's 2 ports here. There's one at the top, one at the bottom. We know the one at the bottom is the one for the RJ45 console, right? So for example, if we go back again, let's get the name of the switch. So just to make it a bit bigger for us. Actually, let's just go to the Amazon page and maybe that will help us to get it a bit more bigger and then get it much more clear. Okay, we've got the Amazon stuff here. So let's go. Okay. Oh, failed. Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. My bad. I got the wrong URL. So we go to the, okay, yeah, good. So here we are. So you can see this, right? So right here, you can see, yeah. So we have a port here, this one here at the bottom, right? And we have one at the top. And then over here, we have the USB, right? I'm not sure if you can see my screen. So we
Yeah.
have, yeah, so we have a port here at the bottom, one at the top. That's on the left-hand side. Then over at the top right there, we have the USB mini console. So the one at the bottom is the RJ45 port, which is this one at the bottom here. This one is the RJ45 port. So can I copy this image actually? And then let's go paint, and let's, yeah, okay, this is better. So this one right there at the bottom, so that's the RJ45 console port. This is the mini USB port. So this port here, do you know what that port is used for? This particular port at the top, do you know what that's used for? Because that's something again that is sort of new to new devices. So it's not something that exists so much on the whole Cisco hardware models that we usually get. So this is something that's kind of like new. Do you know what that's used for? Let me try to bring in Marcin for this. So Marcin, are you there? Can you hear me? Hello, Marcin. Can you hear me? Want to contribute to this? You may need to unmute yourself if you want to contribute in the discussion and all that. Okay, so let's just carry on. So this port right here is what they call the network management point, or the network management port. And what does that mean when they say network management port? What they simply mean is this. What they simply mean is this. So if you go down here, you can see Ethernet management port. What they simply mean is, so for example, this switch is a layer 2 switch, right? Which means all these ports are layer 2 ports. But what they're not saying is they have one port here that is a layer 3 port that you can assign an IP address to. Now, you know that in the past, what we usually do is we'll have a layer 3 interface within the device, right? Interface VLAN 1 or interface VLAN, whatever we want to call it. Yeah, exactly. And then we can assign. Marcin, you may need to unmute yourself if you want to talk. So then we can assign an IP address to that interface VLAN 1. But what they've now done is they've added one layer 3 port here. So like all these ports here on the layer 2 switch, we can't add IP address to them because they are layer 2. It's a layer 2 device. All the ports, they only understand layer 2 addressing, which are MAC addresses. So we can't go in and say IP config, IP address, so and so, because they are not layer 3 ports. But this one right here is a layer 3 port that we can use to assign an IP address to this device. And the whole purpose of this one is you have an issue to troubleshoot. Now you have 3 ways that you can connect to the device. You come downstairs and to your patch room, data center, wherever. You get your laptop. Let's cancel this. You get a laptop available. You either take an RJ45 to serial cable and connect to your laptop, or you take a Type B USB console cable to Type A and connect to this one, or give your laptop an IP address, and after giving your laptop an IP address, connect it to this port here, which has an IP address on the same network. So in other words, you maybe give this one an IP. You give this port an IP address of 192.168.1.1. Then all you have to do is come down, give your device an IP address of 192.168.1.2, and then connect to this port, and then you can manage your device. So that's what the purpose of this second port, that's what it's about. It's about the network management in terms of that. So I'm not sure. Any questions regarding the ones that we've mentioned so far? Any questions at all? Marcin, do you have any questions? Is it all clear, Marcin? Yeah. Any questions at all regarding the ones that we've mentioned so far? Okay, everything. Okay, yeah. So let's move on then. So now we understand this one in terms of different ways of accessing the switch. And of course, like we already know that in most production network or in most production environment, this is not the typical or primary way that we're going to be connecting to our devices. We're not going to be sitting in front of devices with console cables and Ethernet cables to connect to these devices for management. We'll probably be using some sort of remote management to connect to these devices. Now, in terms of remote management to connect to the devices, the interfaces or the virtual interfaces within the device itself, they call them VTY lines. I know we know what VTY lines already. We know what they are, and basically it's just a way to connect to the switch or the router remotely for management. So when it comes to the VTY lines, in terms of the question is, how do we control administrative access? Because I reckon if someone has been given a task to set up a network somewhere, so after making decision about the hardware you're going to buy and everything you're going to buy, so you make that decision, this is the hardware I'll buy, this is where I'll configure it, this is how I'll configure it. One of the most important decisions that you have to make is, how do I secure this device? And that leads to the question of how do we lock down administrative access on Cisco devices? So what are the options that are available to us to lock down administrative access on Cisco devices? So let's put that down. What options are available to us to lock down, or actually lockdown is probably a strong word. Let's say to control administrative access to our Cisco devices. So what options are available to us? So number one is, we know the different ways that we can access the router or the switch. We can access it via the console, or we can access it via the VTY lines. So the main question will now be, how do we secure the console and the VTY lines? So option one for us, let's trust that. Option one for us will be to set a password on each line. So in other words, we can set a password on the console or the VTY lines. So that's one option for us, is we can set the password. So, Jimmy says, okay, Jimmy says no. So Jimmy, yeah, you want to expand on that? Carry on, please. You're muted. You need to unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, well, me at work, we usually set up a user with high privileges. You know, with the 15th privilege, with enable secret password with high privileges.
Yeah,
that's what we do. We usually do.
Yeah. So the question, okay, here's another question. So you mentioned the enable. So do you use the enable secret?
Yeah.
And then you set a password for that?
Absolutely, and everything is set up with logging local.
Why? What's the reason for that?
Well, we have a group of six persons who only can access to the global configuration and the specific configuration and the interface configuration.
Yeah. So why there's nothing wrong with that? Why there's nothing wrong with that? So the whole purpose is not to, the whole purpose of this discussion also, like when learning, is to realize there's more than one way to do things, and to realize what are the different options that are available. So that's one option that you've mentioned. But here's the issue that will contend with that, is that, so okay, we said number one, we can set a password on each line, right? So we can go in and set the password on the console line or the VTY line. Or another option that's available to us is the option that you've mentioned, number 2, is where we can go and configure local usernames and passwords. And then what we can now do is configure the lines to use the local database for authentication. So which is the one that you're mentioning about doing. So, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So actually, let's get these two done as soon as let's get these two done, and let's see how that looks like. So I'll bring up my lab environment here, and yeah, what I've got here is I've got 3 devices. I've got a switch, router, and all connecting. So I have a domain controller here, a Windows domain controller. So actually, I just need to quickly complete some configuration here because we'll be using this to configure radius later. So I just need to add some roles in preparation for that. So I had the network policy server role, which is Microsoft's implementation of the radius authentication method. And yeah, we'll install that. So we'll come back to that. So let's bring up this switch, for example, switch 2. So switch 2 has this IP address 192.168.20.2. So at the moment, by default, if I go enter, hey, it's not protected. It's just got, I just click on it, log in via the console. I can go to the privileged exec mode, no issues. So the method we talked about is we could go configuration terminal and go line console 0 and say password. So we set the password on the line itself and say password is console pass. And say password is console pass, and also set something like and then we'll say login. So the whole purpose, so this one is important. The reason why we have to put login is to say check for login, otherwise it's not going to work. So we say login, and then we go line VTY E0 to 1340. Look at that. 1340, and just do the same and say password. Let's see, password VTY pass, and let's say login also. And if I exit that, and then we set an enable secret. So enable secret, enable pass. Okay, and then if we exit out now and exit, and then now when we try to access this, now we're prompted for a password. So because we're at the console, I can press console pass, and now I can log in. If I try to access the privileged exec mode, I get asked for a password, and I go enable pass. So that's one method. But the other method is if we go back to line, if we go to line console 0 and just remove the password, no password, no secret, no password, and yeah, and we go to line VTY 0 to 1340, and we say no password also. So we remove the password for that. So what we could do is we could go here and say username Jimmy, and say password Jimmy pass. Actually, let me try to make this a bit larger. So hello, hi. so
yeah, it's Katia, my girlfriend.
Yeah, you say hello to her for also. So we go to colors. So I just want to make this a bit larger for yeah, let's make this a bit larger. So I'll make it 12, and okay, apply. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so let's say username Masin also. Password Masin pass. And then what we have to do is we now go into the lines. So line console 0, and now tell the line and say, hey, rather than we configuring a password for you, just go check the local database for your password. So in other words, we just go we go login. So in this case, we're not entering any password on the line. We're just going login local. In other words, check the local database. And we do the same thing for line VTY 01340, and we say login local also. So then if I exit, and if we exit out of all that, and now if we want to enter, it's going to ask us for a username now that it didn't ask us before. So I can go Jimmy, and password I can go Jimmy Pass. If I got that right, I probably entered it incorrectly. So yeah, I got it wrong. So if I go Jimmy Pass, and now I'm logged into this. Now the issue with this, I mean, I'm sure we already know the issues. What is the issue with these two methods that we've mentioned and that we've demonstrated so far? What's the issue with this, Jimmy? In your opinion, what do you think?
Well, if well, I'm not sure. I don't know.
So yeah, I mean, let's think. Okay, what about Masin or Ismail? So Ismail, you need to unmute yourself if you want to say anything because you're currently muted. And so, do you want to contribute to that? So we've just mentioned and demonstrated these two methods for configuring administrative access to our Cisco devices. So we can set a password on the lines, which we've demonstrated, or we can configure local usernames and password and then configure the lines, which is the console and VTY lines, to use the local database for authentication. But there's an issue with this. Okay, so this is cool, right? Martin, this is cool. As long as we have like 3 devices, right? This is really cool. You can even script it, write a Python script, whatever, that will get all this done for you. You don't have to worry about going to it. But think about a situation where we have, let's see, which is not unheard of. Think about a situation where, let's bring up Paint and let's just look for Cisco switch. Let's look for a good image of a Cisco switch. Images, because I like using images for, yeah, here we go. That's a good one. Copy image. There we go. Nice image for us. And then we'll copy this one. Yeah, here we go. A nice one. So this is good once you have just 2 devices, right? But here's the situation. What happens in this situation where you have multiple devices? You have multiple devices to manage. You know what that means? Here's what that means. So I'll just drag this one, make it smaller, and let's get ourselves more switches. So you have all these devices to manage. Now, are you seeing what the issue is now, Mersin? So now we've got username Jimmy Pass, local name Jimmy Pass. Now Jimmy decides, oh, I've got a job that's going to pay me 20K more. Sorry, I'm leaving. Bye-bye. Now we want to say, oh, okay, for security reasons, let's disable Jimmy's account. Now we have to go around to 50 devices to disable Jimmy's account. And there's a new administrator replacing Jimmy. His name is Johnny. Now we have to go around 50 devices and reconfigure Johnny's account. So Johnny, after 2 weeks, decides exactly, oh, by the way, I also got a new job. They're offering me 10K more. I'm leaving. Oh, now we have to go around again to 50 devices to disable Johnny's account. So you can see the issue with this is the scale. How do you scale this? All of a sudden, your organization goes, and then not only the scale, it's also the maintenance. You realize that Johnny hasn't kept his password properly. He saved it on Notepad on his laptop. His laptop got stolen. He's not encrypted the document. Now you have to change his password. Now, how do you maintain that? Now, you have to go around all these devices to change that. So it's the scale it doesn't scale in terms of how do you scale this kind of solution. So which is why one of the things that we mentioned is that many of the things that we're going to be learning in our Cisco CCNA, even Cisco CCNP studies, they are not things that we'll actually use in production, because things don't work that way in production. They will teach us how to use Telnet, for example. You know, it will be difficult for you to get an environment where anyone is using Telnet, but they will teach us all that. For example, in Cisco CCNA, we're going to spend a lot of time learning how to configure frame relay. How many organizations do you know that still use frame relay for anything? So that's the thing, is that we'll learn a lot of stuff that will actually in production, that's not the way it works. And I know many people find it frustrating after finishing like the whole CCNA course, and then they get into production and they're like, everything is different from what they taught me. Why is it different from what they taught me? So in this kind of situation, there's other methods for us. So let's bring this up again. So we can configure local usernames and password. Or number 3, what we could do is we could configure something called AAA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And AAA is using radius or TACAX plus in this case.
TACAX, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Or TACAX plus in this case. So that's like the one other option for us, is we could configure AAA. So now let's talk about like in terms of this for a minute. Now, before we go here also, let's also talk about something on Cisco devices called privilege levels, because the whole discussion is about this, controlling administrative access. That's the core of what we want to do. We want to control administrative access to these devices. And also, part of administrative access is not only controlling authentication, who can log into this. A principle of administrative access is also controlling what people can do when they log in. So, for example, we have these things on Cisco devices called privilege levels. And this is very important because we'll be using all these. You see, everything come together very soon. So we have this concept of privilege levels, and we also have this concept of parser views. So maybe like, oh, we don't understand what this means. Don't worry, you'll understand. But by the time we finish today, you'll understand. So we have privilege levels, we have parser views. So on a Cisco device, on a Cisco switch, let's go back to our lab here. On a Cisco device, so if we go enable pass. On a Cisco device, there's 15 privilege levels. So for example, if I go do show privilege here, or sorry, 16 or 15. Show privilege here, it says my current privilege level is privilege level 15. What does that mean when it says my current privilege level is privilege level 15? Jimmy, so what's your understanding? What does it mean by my current privilege level is privilege level 15?
Well, it means that you can do anything that you want on the device.
Excellent. So anything that you want, I'll put an asterisk next to that, because that is not completely true, even though it's true a lot, but it's not completely true, because there's another one that has a little bit more permission than privilege level 15, and we'll talk about that. So now we have 16 privilege levels. It's 0 to 15.
Yeah.
You've gone to a store, whatever, you've contacted your sales provider, you've bought this new Cisco device. Out of the box, 3 privilege levels are enabled. You have privilege level 0, you have privilege level 1, you have privilege level 15. So if I go disable here, and then go enable 0, enable 0 and go question mark. So I've just gone enable 0 to test privilege level 0, and question mark, you see all the commands I can run on privilege level 0. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 commands. Okay, I go enable 1, it's going to say no password set. So what I'll do is if I go enable mode again, and I go enable pass, what we'll do is we'll reconfigure Jimmy's account. So we go conft. Let's go to username Jimmy, Now the temptation is to go password Jimmy pass and then try to set Jimmy's privilege level. But I go question mark, I've got nothing. So you have to set the privilege level before you set the password. That's the key. So username Jimmy, press question mark, I go privilege. You can see privilege, yes. I go privilege question mark is 0 to 15. Let's put Jimmy privilege level 1. And then I can set the password now. Password Jimmy pass. Okay. So let's go out again. Disable. Enable 1. So now Jimmy can access privilege level 1 because we've configured Jimmy's account as privilege level 1. So the thing is, if I give Jimmy privilege level 1, you can access all commands of level 1 and level 0. So now Jimmy has privilege level 1. Let's go question mark. Now we have more commands than privilege level 0. So look at that. That's privilege level 1. If I go enable 0, I see what we get. If I go enable 1, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you have to go to do the same thing again.
Yeah, so if I go disable, so what I need to do is I need to disable. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so question mark. Now we see all the commands that we get. So there's nothing wrong with this. So this is really good. So the thing is, we have all these different privilege levels that have different command sets. So privilege level 1 has like maybe 5 commands you can run. Privilege level 2 gives you more commands. Level 3 gives you more command. Level 4, and it goes on and on like that. And we could say, okay, for example, we go an account for Masin. Let's go back and go enable, and let's go, and let's just test privilege level 4, for example. So I go and go username Masin privilege 4, and then password Masin pass. Password Masin pass. So, and then let's exit out of this, and then let's log in as Masin, for example. So if I go Masin pass and disable, and then go enable 4. Yeah, so let's go. So Q, so conft show on include username. So we got username Masin privilege level 4. So here's one other thing that we must mention. Okay, for example, let me quickly show you this one. So if I go, so we got username Jimmy, password 0. So if I go username Jimmy privilege 0. So that is saying Jimmy can only access commands on privilege level 0, right? And say password Jimmy pass and go do show run. Yep, and do right. Okay. So one thing is if I go exit and exit and log in as Jimmy. So if let's go Jimmy pass enable. Sorry. Yeah. So if I go, yeah. So Jimmy is in level 0, and you can see the commands you can access. Now, what I can do with privilege levels is I can move commands around and change the privilege levels of commands. So, for example, here I can see that there's no ping here. So you only have call, disable, enable, exit, help, logout. So let's say I'm like, I want Jimmy to be able to access to be able to use the ping command, but I don't want to raise Jimmy's level to privilege level 1. Now, if I go enable 1, or if I go enable, yeah, and if I go enable 1, so that's, you can see ping is an enable 1 command, ping. So Q. So what I'll do is, if I go, what I can do in this case is I can go down here for Jimmy's command, for the privilege level, and I can change the privilege level of the ping command, and I can do, and it's just simply doing privilege. Yeah, so I can go privilege exec, or let's do just a question mark. Yeah, and you can see I can go privilege exec mode, and I can do level, and I set the level 0 and set the command, which is ping. And what this allows me is that if I go privilege exec level 0 ping, and then if I do exit and exit, and I log in again as Jimmy now. So if I go Jimmy pass, and I do a question mark, now you can see ping is here now. Ping wasn't there before, but what I've done in this case is I've changed the privilege level of the command ping, and I've said, oh, along with all the commands that are available in privilege level 0, I want the ping command to also be added to privilege level 0. So we can move commands around and set and move a command and say, even though this is by default not available to people in this privilege level, I want to make this command available to people in this privilege level. So we can do that using the command that we used earlier. So that for privilege levels. But now the issue with this is you have this set of commands that I can't change. So for example, if I give Jimmy privilege level 0, Jimmy is always going to get all these commands. Now I can add commands to them, I can't take away commands from them. And as you can see quickly, privilege level 0 can't really do much. And then if I go enable and enable pass, and then go enable 1 to test 1 and go question mark, I may go, oh, hold on, privilege level 0 can't do anything. Privilege level 1 does too much. But the thing is, I can't take away the command. I can add more commands, but I can't take away these commands. That is where this other one comes in. Parser views. Because what privilege level does is you have this configured command set that you can add to, but parser view comes with a blank slate. It basically allows you to create your own privilege level. So I can go and create a parser view and say the only command that this person can run is the show command. So it's not as if I have this set of commands that I can't but accept. So I accept this command. So I'm not sure if that's clear at all. Is that clear or is that confusing? Parser view allows us to basically create our own privilege level from a blank slate. Whereas privilege level is not a blank slate. It's a slate that has this predefined set of commands that we can add to, but we cannot remove from. But parser view says, you've got absolutely nothing. I determine 100% of what you have. So that's the difference. So in production, you see these two mentioned. You see people mention privilege levels. You see people mention parser views. Now, when we talk about parser views, remember, Jimmy, that we mentioned before. We mentioned that there's a level of another level that is a little bit higher than privilege level 15. So that's not actually like 100% accurate, but let's just call it that. So if I go, for example, if I go enable command and I put a question mark, you can see I can enable privilege level, I can enable a view. So that one is really interesting because that's privilege level, that's view, that's the parser view. So if I type in enable view here, I get an error message about AAA must be configured on this device first of all. Okay, so let's go ahead and quickly configure AAA, enable pass, and I'll just do conft AAA new model, which is how you enable AAA. So now I've enabled AAA, I can hand disable and I can go enable view, enter. Now it's asking me for the password. The password for the enable view is the same as the one I configured for the enable secret. So it's the same one for your enable password. So if I go my enable pass here, and now look at this. Instantly it gave me a console message, parser view switch successfully set to view root. So now this is a bit different because if I go, look at this, show privilege. Okay. If I do not show privilege, maybe I can just do show view. Oh yeah, so let's do show view. Oh, can you not? So what can I show? I thought I could show privilege. Let's see. So I can show privilege and I can show view. Yeah, that's all right. Okay, maybe I can show privilege and show view. Yeah, okay. But this view that I'm on is what's called the root view. So this one is basically similar to privilege level 15. But the difference is you can create new views from this. So if I'm just logged in just with privilege level 15, I can create a new view. But if I'm logged in under the enable view, under the root view, I can create a new view. So I'm not sure, does that make any sense? So the difference between privilege level 15 and the root view is that privilege level 15, you can use all commands, but root view, you can use all commands, plus you can create new views. So it gives you that extra privilege of being able to create a new view. So that's privilege level 15 versus the root view. Okay, so let's go a step further with this. So I'm not sure, is that clear so far? Is that clear so far? Or any questions at all? Marcin and Jimmy. Yeah, Jimmy says 100%. But Marcin, is he okay? Are you okay with that? Yeah, Marcin, are you okay? Are you cool? Everything clear? Nothing unclear? Yeah, okay, yeah, nice. Okay, so let's move on. So now, again, to be able to create a new view, I have to enter the enable view command. Yeah, so now if I go here and I go config conft and I go parser and I can go parser view text support. So that is creating a new view, and you can see instantly it got created view text support. So now I've just created a brand new view. I can set a password or a secret for that view. So I can go secret secret 5 to encrypt it and says text support pass. Okay, sorry. Let's just go secret. No need to enter 5 because I'm not entering an encrypted one. Okay, so secret text support pass. Okay, So I'm creating a new view for tech support. So I can go command, or even if you do a question mark here to see what's going on. So configure command for a view. So again, I've just done enable view to enter the root view mode, then configure terminal, and then parser view, the name of the view, it creates the view. I can set the secret for the view here, and I want to configure the commands you can use from this view. So for example, I can go commands, and now I can go, maybe the commands I want to do is a command in exec mode, for example. So if I go exec mode, so let's see. So do I have exec? Okay, yeah, exec mode, and there are different modes here. Let's see all the other modes. Line configuration mode. Yeah. Let's go down. Yeah. So I can go commands exec include, or it depends. I don't have to use include. I can use exclude to exclude a command from a view. If I've already added a command to a view, I can use exclude to remove a command. So, but in this case, I want to add a new command. So I can go include question mark keywords of the command. So let's say, for example, include show. Enter. So I've added the show command to this view. Okay. So let's go exit and exit, and I can go enable view and go tech support, my new view, and enter the password for that view, which is tech support pass. Now I'm on that view. So successfully set to view to tech support. Now if I do question mark, look at that. So can you see this difference? So this is different from privilege level, because the only command this user can use is the command that I've configured. This user cannot use all these other commands. So the only command this user can use is show. Because over here, the only command I added to this view is the show command. So parser view gives us more control. So the user can do show, but then nothing else. So because I've only added show command, if I want the user to get show and get all the other sub commands under show, so actually if I go back and go enable view and go to my secret, and then let's go to conft again, parser view, let's go back to our view, tech support. Yep, and let's modify the command so that it's not just, so I could go command exec include. Now, instead of me just specifying the command, I could use the all wildcard, include all, which means I'm not only adding this command, I'm adding all the commands under this command. Because when I did show here, you could see I can only show flash, parser, and slot. So if I go back and say all, and I say all show, enter. Now let's go back again, and I go enable view tech support and enter the tech support pass and go again. We can see we can do show. So we do show question mark. Now look at that. So now I can not only use show, I can use all the commands under show. And this is basically, the kind of control that parser view gives you more than what privilege level gives to us. So any question regarding that so far? Any question at all? So if somebody comes to you, so any question at all? No? And what about Masin? So Jimmy, if I come to you and I say, Jimmy, I need a user that I only want to be able to use the debug command, what are you going to use? Privilege level or parser view? Excellent. And what if I say, oh, I want a user that will be able to, I want a user that will be able to do everything in privilege level 0, but I also want them to be able to use just a few extra commands. What would you use? Parser view or privilege level? So they will be able to do everything in privilege level 0, but maybe I just want to add 1 or 2 more commands. Privilege level. And how would you do that? You basically change the level of the commands that I want, right? And that will get the job done. Excellent. Excellent. So now we got this. So, I mean, the main one that I want to, because we're fastly running out of time. I mean, this is a really vast topic. I'm not sure what I was thinking of when I wrote that we were going to do all this. Because this is a really, these are like really huge topic, and we're fastly running out of time. So what I'll just do is, let's see if we can get a scenario for this running for role-based access control using Radius. So what do we mean by role-based access control? So I mean, majority of us already know what role-based access control gives to us. In that, for example, we talked about a situation where we could set passwords for lines, or we could create local usernames and local passwords, and apply those local usernames and passwords to different lines. And we mentioned that that is not scalable. So what typically we'll have in our environment is we'll have all our switches or all our routers there, and then we'll have kind of like an authentication server at the back here. So it could just be an LDAP server, it could be an Active Directory server. In the case of the demo that we'll be doing, we'll be using an Active Directory server. And this one will basically be storing all the usernames and passwords will be stored on this server. And what we'll now do is we'll have kind of like all these devices, we'll be pointing them to this server. So it's just a configuration to say, this is the server that you'll be using for your authentication. So that whenever a user comes here to try to log in, and the user enters their username and password, what it's going to do is it's going to take that user's username and password and say, I've been configured to send your details all the way to this guy here, and let this guy handle that. So this guy will do the authentication, this guy will do the authorization, and this guy will reply back to me and tell me what the result is. So how does it do that? So in the case of that, how does it do that? So for example, let's say we have 3 users. We have Jimmy, we have Marcin, and we have David. And let's say Jimmy is in the super admin group. So he has this privilege of super admins. Marcin is a network admin. Why David is just a support guy. So we have these 3 groups of people, and now there are other users apart from Jimmy here. So it won't be smart for us to just go put the authorization under Jimmy's account. What we want to do is probably put the authorization under this group, so that anybody under this group will get the same authorization. So think about how easy that would be. You have Jimmy has left, to take away Jimmy's access to all these devices. All you need to do is remove Jimmy from this group. You don't even have to disable the account. Just remove him from this group, and Jimmy has no access. Now a new admin comes, Johnny comes. All you have to do is add Johnny's account to this group, and Johnny gets all the right access. So rather than putting a user-based access control, you're using something that is group-based or role-based, based on the role of the user. So let's do this. So let's do Jimmy, Marcin, David in these different groups. Let's see if we can configure this. So let's bring up our Active Directory server. In this case, So let's go. So first thing we'll do, Windows machine, is we'll create those user accounts. So let's just go new new OU here, and let's call this internal. So we have this internal OU, go new group, super admins. We create another group, call it network admins, and we create another group, we call it support group. And then we create all our users, which is user Jimmy. Jimmy is there, and then we set Jimmy's password. By the way, because okay, yeah, we need to set a complex password. So let's set Jimmy pass 001. Jimmy pass 001. That should be complex enough. Okay, we want a capital letter. Here we go. Okay. Don't you like it when you are secure? Oh, okay. Let's just use a simple one. Yeah, better. Even though it's less secure, but it's simple. So, new user. Let's call this machine. Username is machine. Let's remove this. No need for that. So, yep, and then we got David also. So new user, David. There we go. Yeah, so we have these three users now. So what we'll do is we'll add Jimmy to super admins. So members add Jimmy. Okay. Network admins will add Marcin. Yeah. It not only wants uppercase, but it also wants complex characters, Jimmy. So that was why it was, because wanted me to enter a complex character. So that was why. So an A, I enter David. And here we go. We got all our users, everybody in the group that we want. So hold on. So what we'll do is now we have these devices here. So the IP address of this server is on this page here. So 192.168.20.4. So what we'll do is let's pick a server that a switch that we've not configured before. So switch 1. So I've not configured this one with anything before. So this one is what we'll use to configure our role-based access control. So in order to do parser view, one of the things that we should note is that in order to do parser views, we need to be using local authentication. So what this means is that you have to enable this before you do your AAA. So that's really important to note. So we have to be, so first of all, so first thing we'll do is let's create our different parser views on a Cisco device. And then let's go from there. Okay, so let's go back here and let's go enable view again. We need to configure AA, of course, and then go AA new model, exit, and then do enable view. Let me make this one larger. On the where is that appearance? Let's change this to 12. Okay, better. So enable view password. I need to set an enable secret. So if I go, so enable secret, enable pass. So and enable view. Yeah, no. So now we're in the root view. Now I want to create the view for all the different users. So actually, like, there's no need to create anything for the super admins, maybe even for the network admins. So what we can do is we come here, we go enable view. We've only enabled view, so we can go conf parser view support, and then I can set a password for it. Yep, set a password for the view. So for anyone in the support group, I only want them to be able to use the show command, which is what we did earlier. So we can go commands exec include all show. So it will not only have the show. So if you use the all one before, it will not only have the show command, it will have all the commands on the show. So all show. So I only want David in support to be able to do just the show bit of things. Okay, so we've configured that, and then I can go exit, and then just test the view. So always test your view first. So enable view support and enter the password for the view support pass and question mark. I can see I can do the show command. If I do show question mark, I can see I have access to all the show commands. So good. So now we have this view configured. So let me see if I do show privilege. So actually, yeah. So show privilege, I'm currently in view context with view support. So good. So I know that my support group is working properly. So let's say, for example, let's even set up one for the network admin. Okay, so yeah, because I mean, so I have to go enable view first of all. So parser view network admins, and what commands do we want network admins to be able to use? So let's go back to this all show. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so let's set the password for this secret network admins pass. Okay, so let's set all show. That's good. All configure. Yeah, and then let's go end. So let's go enable view network admins. What's the view called? Network. Oh, sorry, bad. Enable. I need to change that to enable views network admins. Then network admins pass, and then show privilege just to be sure where I am. Yep, I'm in network admins view, and I can do question mark. I've got my configure, and I can use everything under configure. So I've got configure and I've got show. And then we've got super admins, which is privilege level 15. Okay, so now we've configured this on our switch device, right? So we have our view. Nice. So let's go back to enable, and let's go enable. Let's just delete that. Enable pass. Okay. So, I mean, what we've done so far, is that clear, guys? Is that clear, the things that I've done so far? So I've only just created the views for the different groups so far. So that's all we've done, is we've just created the view. So is that clear so far? Or any questions regarding the things we've done so far? Nice, okay. So yeah, let's move on. So the next thing that we'll do is we'll enable the whole radius. I mean, there's a lot of documentation of people that mention a lot about that. So the thing is that there's very few people that have actually like done a lot of teaching around parser views and stuff like that. So, but there's much more documentation around configuring AA. So we won't go into details about configuring AA. There's lots of videos that you can watch on YouTube about AA. So we'll just gloss over this quickly. You can always study about that online, and something that we could bring up in other discussions for some other time. So now we've configured views in Active Directory. We've configured the groups in Active Directory. We've configured the views for the different groups on the Cisco devices. Now let's configure the Cisco device to use radius. So I'll go just to set username. Just to set a local admin in case my remote authentication does not work, so that I'm not locked out. So I'll just configure a local admin. So I'll say user local admin privilege 15 secret local admin pass. Okay, not the local admin pass. Okay, good. So we got AA. And then let's go AA authentication. So we want to configure the authentication login. And yeah, so if I go question mark, so I can use the default list, or I can use a custom method list. So I'll just use the default list here. Like, there's nothing wrong in me using custom list also. I just give it a custom name. So I'll call this default, which is the default group. Now say group. I want you to use radius first, and then if radius fails, I want you to use local. So actually, if we go so you can see the difference between local and local case is use local username authentication. So this one, use case sensitive local username authentication. So if you want it to be case sensitive, you can use local case. If you want it to be doesn't matter the case, you can just use local. So I'll just use local, doesn't matter. So then I'll set the authorization also. Authorization, which is the exec mode. Default group. So I want radius also. And so in other words, I want it to use for the enable mode. I want it to use the same authentication for login. If that authentication is successful, I want you to use the authentication to give the user the privilege level. So I'll say if authenticated here. So the next thing I'll do is I'll configure my radius server. Radius server, give it the name radius. And I'll specify the address of my radius server, which is 192.168.20.4. So address IPv4 192.168.20.4. So if I want, I can specify the authentication port and the accounting port. So by default, it's going to use 164.6.1.6.4.5. So the other radius ports is 18.12 and 18.13. So I can go counting ports 18.13. Oh, actually, can I go hotpot 18.12? Yep, counting ports 18.13. And then I'll just set a key, and I'll call the key radius pass. So this is the key that will be used for the encryption for the communication between the radio server and the device. So set a key to radius pass, and I'll show you where we'll set this also on the device. So here's the thing. If I go N here, if I ping 192.168.20.4, which is my radio server, so I can get to it. So the other thing is, if you assuming you have multiple interfaces with IP address, you may want to configure the source of the radius authentication. So if you have multiple IP addresses on the device, so you can use IP radius source here, source interface, to specify a particular interface to use. So in this case, I only have one. So if I do show IP interface brief, I only have one IP address configured, so that's all right. Yeah. And so the other thing I'll do is, now we go back to our lines, and then we configure our lines to use the radius authentication that we've enabled. So I'll go line console. So rather than put a password there or tell it to use login local, I'll go login authentication, and I'll say default. And I'll do the same for line VTY. Line VTY 0 to 4, and I'll say login authentication default. And save that. Okay. So now we've configured this on the side of radio. So what we've done on side of Cisco is we've configured a radio server on the Cisco device. We've configured the ports to use. We've configured the key to use for the encryption. We've configured the views for the different groups on the Cisco device. And now what we have to do is go back to our radio server and do the rest of the configuration. So if I go now in Active Directory, which is not something that we are learning to do or anything. So Microsoft's implementation of radio server is the network policy server, this one. And there are different policies that we'll configure. We configure the connection policy, network policies, but again, it's not something that you have to, it's just something that we want to see that it's working. So I'll say internal connections, and I'll just say to this, basically accept everything. The only thing I'll do is day and time restrictions, add, and I'll say permitted. Okay. Next. So authenticate request on this server. Yep. Doesn't matter. So this doesn't matter too. I'll just disable this one, and I'll just leave this one enabled. So because there are 3 stages. First stage is connection, and the next stage is it's going to do the authentication and then the authorization. So that's the connection. So that's saying accept connection from anyone within this time. So that's all right. So the next one is the one on the other radius side. So before we do that, we had to add a radius client here first. So if I go new radius client, so the client that we're adding in this case is this one, is the one that I just finished configuring. Switch 1. So switch 1 is the one I just finished configuring, which is this one. 192.168.20.3. So let's add that. So friendly name, switch 1. IP address 192.168.20.3. Secret, shared secret. We go manual, and our shared secret that we enter is called radius pass, and we confirm it radius pass. So that one we encrypt at the other end, this one will decrypt at this end, and vice versa. So and then we go enter. Now we have a radius client here, and then I'll just quickly add a policy for this. So here's where this is important. So we're rounding up now. Where this one is important is this: we have the Cisco device configured with the view for support and with the view for network admins. Now, that authentication request, whenever a user tries to log in, will go all the way to this radius server. So what we want to configure on this radius server, it says, if a user logs in and the user is in support, reply with attribute support. And basically, that's what we're doing on the radius side. So you as a Cisco admin at your work, if you're using a radius, it's a Windows radius server, that's what you give to your radius, to your Windows guy. So you say, oh, we want to configure role-based access control for our Cisco devices. Sure, no problem. You do your own hand, you configure the views, your Windows guy will configure the Active Directory groups, and then you tell your Windows guy, this is the name of my view. So your Windows guy will now configure the radius server to say if a user authenticates and the user is in this group, I want you to reply with the attribute, which will be the name of the view, which is this one. So basically that's what we're doing. And we'll be doing the same thing for network admins, which is a configuration that just says if a user logs in and the user is successfully authenticated, that is the password is accurate, and the user is in the network admins group in Active Directory, I want you to reply with the attribute network admins, which is basically the name of the view that the Cisco guy has configured. So that's what we're basically doing on this end. So that's the next thing that we'll be doing. Okay. So let's go back to radius server. Okay, let's just call this policy name. Let's call this support, because that's a support guy. So let's call this support access. So that's really clear for us what we're doing. And we go type of access server not configured had. So here is where we'll be doing this. So we'll say we'll specify the group in Active Directory. This is what your Windows guy will be doing. So the group in this case is support. So we specify that group in Active Directory and say okay. So in other words, this policy that we are configuring will only apply if the user is in this group. And what will the policy do? It will grant access for sure. So we'll grant access. That's for sure. That's okay. Next, the policy or the authentication method that we're using. So this one is also important because we won't be using all these other policies. This for a separate discussion. So we'll just be using just pure password authentication, and don't be confused by this unencrypted authentication, because there's some encryption between the communication with the key that we've configured. So don't be spooked by this unencrypted one. Okay, so now under this one, so this is where we now configure what if a user is in that group, what will I send back to the Cisco device? This is where we configure that. So I go under standard here, and I'll just remove all this default one. And then I'll go add a new one. And the new one that I'll add under access type, Um, oh, okay, sorry, got this one. So access type all. So I was thinking, so okay, let's go on the vendor specific, Cisco vendor specific, and let's add this one. Aha, okay. So this one is where we'll configure where to send or the views to send. So because we won't just say send privilege level at this case. So in this case, we'll say to send a particular view to this guy. And what we'll do is we'll go, let me get this one. And this information that I'm typing here, it's on Cisco's website. So this information is on Cisco's website. So shell column CLI, let me put that in the notepad here. I'll probably post the link on the community page of this. Sorry, I can't copy. So let me just type it there. So let's go. So that's shell column CLI view name equals, in the case, the name of the view that we've configured. Okay. So attributes, and I'll say equals support. Okay. Service type. And we go next, finish. So I'll try this one out. Yeah, no problems. I will. So I'll send that across. So no problem. So it's so that you can test it out. So I'll post the link in the community page. So okay. So we got support access here, and no problems. Yeah. So I think that's it. So let's go test this out. So I'll go. So hopefully, if we don't lock ourselves out, let's go to switch 1 and let's test this out. So what I'll do is I'll go and I'll go exit. Okay, so what I'll do in this case now is I'll capture the traffic between this guy and the server. So let's see what the traffic shows us, especially the radius traffic. We want to see what's going on. Remind me later. Okay, so let's log into this as David. Enter password. Aha, look at that. So I've logged in as David, so I can see radius request here and radius accept here. Now let's see inside the radius accept what the server is sending back. Is it sending back what we said to send back? Look at that. Look at that. It's sending back and saying the view name of this user, which is what we configured, is support. Now let's see what David can do on this device. So let's go question mark. Oh, okay, hold on. Can David do? So David can probably do. Yeah. So I think I need to modify. So if I do show privilege. Okay. So I think maybe I got my policy wrong. So let me go back to this one. And on the vendor specific, I'll just remove this one for now and I'll go OK and apply that and OK. So I'll exit again and let's log in again as David. So let's go David, password is so I still have more access than I think I should have. Let's see. So here's one thing is that we could go. Yeah, let's just go back to the device. Debug AAA. So let's see what that shows us. So let's go. Okay. Can anyone tell me what the issue is? So look at this command, privilege level 15. So we've set a default privilege level for the console line. So that's not right. So we need to take this privilege level away. So const t line console 0, no privilege level. And we need to take it away for so that's the issue that we're having. So the moment you can see that is because I expected to get more information from that debugging line that I did not get. So if I do show run again and just make sure that there's no default privilege level on any line. So line console 0, yeah, that's good. So let's exit again. So let's log in as David again. So let's see. So that's still not working as I expect. So enable, yeah, that's still not working as I expect. So we may probably not be able to complete this till we get off, because I'll need to just try to troubleshoot what I'm sending. So I think the issue is with the way I've configured the radius. Let's see. Cisco documentation. Yeah, no problems. Yeah, so I think yeah, after 5 minutes, if we're not able to fix it, we just close it for today and then we'll move on. So let's see. So let's go back to radius. So support access, user is in test support, authentication, service administrative. Let's see. No, at all. No, I'm still talking. So okay, so we've got that command there. So let's add that again. So vendor Cisco. So let's add that again. Let's level. Let's go back. So if I try to log in as Martin, for example, I shouldn't be able to log in. Yeah, so that should fail because there's no policy. So we don't have any policy for Martin. So if I configure, so let's just duplicate this policy and I'll rename it. I'll say this is network admins. Access condition, I'll change the group to network admins group. I'll remove that. So if the user is in network admins group, constraint we're using PAP authentication. So instead of this one, I'll change that to network admins. Okay, and apply that, and I'll enable this policy. So now Martin should be able to log in. So Martin, yep. So now Martin can log in, but then show privilege. Okay, that's privilege level 1, so that's okay. Enable and enable So if we do okay, so I mean, I'll probably figure this out and then I can mention it during the next Hangout. So let's see. So that's page level 1 commands. Yeah, okay, yeah, something's not right. Okay, so I think we'll have to stop here today, guys, so that we don't overrun. But I hope you still get like the entire general concept of how you do the configuration, in the sense of you have to configure the view on your device, and then you have to configure the radio server to send the name of the view to the device if a user is in a particular group. So that's the way you do role-based access control using radius. But then I'll try to figure out what the exact issue is with this, and I'll probably post it on the community or pick on from there the next Hangout. Okay, so I hope you got something today. So we'll carry on with the next Hangout next week. So any questions at all, Jimmy and Martin? Any questions at all? No problems, man. Obviously, I hope I'll be able to just figure that out and then we'll carry on from there. Okay, yeah. So if there's no questions, then we'll carry on the next time. So have a wonderful evening, guys.